This is the summer dessert you're going to want to have at your summer cookout. Sweet, tart, creamy with a crumbly graham cracker crust. It's a lemon cream cheese pie. This was requested by a number of you in the comments, so today we're making it and I think you're going to love it. Let's start with the crust. This is my graham cracker crust recipe I've used on a lot of my pies and it comes together super quickly. You're going to be using a 9.5-inch pie plate for this recipe. I love this one, I have a couple of them. Grab my mixing bowl. Oh, and before we go any further, get your oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit because there is just a brief cooking of this crust. That way it doesn't fall apart when you slice into it. All right, we have 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs. And next we're going to add 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now, typically when I make a graham cracker crust, I use a little bit of granulated sugar and a little bit of brown sugar. But brown sugar and lemon don't really play that well together. They kind of diminish the flavors of one another. So by sticking to granulated, we don't bully any of that lemon flavor. We let it really shine nicely. All right, get that sugar mixed in. Next, we're going to add 7 tablespoons of melted salted butter. And we'll go ahead and drizzle this over the graham cracker crumbs. I'll use my spatula to get that all in there because we don't waste butter around here. All right, let's just toss everything together. Just kind of claw the ingredients with your fork. We want the crumbs well moistened. It's going to be like a sandy mixture, and you want all of the dry ingredients moistened. So easy to do, and I use this crust for so many recipes. All right, we will put this in our pie plate. Once everything's nicely combined, scrape the bottom because we don't really waste anything here if we can help it. And then we'll just press the crust evenly into the bottom and up the sides of the pie plate. A clean glass with straight edges, doesn't have to be a Star Wars one, but bonus points if it is. That works really well, or you can use like a 1 cup measuring cup. That also works nicely. Pardon my voice today, I'm getting over a summer cold, so I sound a little different than normal. I used to work at a drive-thru as a teenager, and anytime I would get a cold, I would have to work because they wouldn't let you have off because you were sick. And I would tell people their total and they would say, "Thank you, sir." That was quite a blow to my teenage self-esteem. All right, let's just tidy up the edges. I use my hand to do this. All right, let's take this to our oven, bake it in the center rack, 350 degrees for about 10 to 13 minutes. You want to notice some golden browning happening around the edge. That's how you can tell it's done. All right, while your pie crust is cooking, you can start making your lemon topping, and this is going to be made over on the stovetop. You're going to need a medium-sized saucepan, and important note, this needs to be non-reactive. What that means is it's not going to react with the lemon juice, so you want to use stainless steel or glass or enameled cast iron or ceramic. Do not use aluminum or cast iron that's not enameled. If you do, you're going to have like a super metallic taste. It's going to be bad news. Okay, for the lemons, before we head over to the stovetop, let's go ahead and zest our lemons. We're going to need a tablespoon of zest. So we'll just do this real quickly. And you've probably heard me say this a million times, but when you're zesting your lemon, don't go too deep. Once you get to that white papery layer, I'm not actually quite there yet. Let's go to it so I can show you. Once you get to this layer, that's called the pith. I think that's how it's pronounced, P-I-T-H. It's actually a bitter layer. You don't want that flavor, so you want to be a little more shallow with your zesting. That's going to give you the most citrusy, bright flavor. All right, let's get this lemon zested. All right, we have a nice tablespoon here. Set that aside for a moment. Now we're going to squeeze our lemon. We need a 1/2 cup of lemon juice. Fresh squeezed is definitely best for this recipe. So I have my little lemon squeezer here, makes everything nice and easy. Lemon goes in this way, not the other way, in case that's news to you. I didn't always know that. Doesn't hurt to give your lemons a little roll to help encourage them to release all their juices for you. How are we looking here? Little baking 101 for you in case you don't know. Anytime you're measuring a liquid ingredient with a liquid measuring cup, you need to get down to eye level to make sure it's actually where it's supposed to be. Can't tell just by looking at it. Gonna get it right there. Nikki is casting doubt on me.
Oh, I'm looking at the 100 millimeters.
Yeah, you weren't at eye level. This is why I'm telling the people, get at eye level. Makes a difference. All right, quickly, our saucepan. Before we add the wet ingredients, we're going to start by adding a cup of granulated sugar. That's 200 grams. I haven't been saying the grams. They are always in the printable recipe. I put the full recipe in the description so you always have access to that, and there's also a button to print it. All right, 1/3 cup of cornstarch, 43 grams, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It's just regular table salt. Go ahead and whisk that together. Again, any metal you're using with your lemon should be non-reactive. This is stainless steel, so that's perfect. We're going to whisk this together before we add our liquid ingredients, just because like cornstarch has a tendency to clump, And if we do this first, we eliminate a lot of that clumping. Okay, our eggs. So this lemon topping is kind of a hybrid between a curd and a lemon pudding. So think like the topping for my lemon meringue pie, but a little bit more tart and sturdy, but not quite as thick as a lemon curd. So it is made using egg yolks, and we're going to need 5 egg yolks. So I'm dropping the whites into a separate bowl. We can save those for macarons, save them for meringue, save them for whatever you want. And we're going to drop the egg yolks into our measuring cup. I know we kind of have a lot going on here right now. 2, 3, 4. Ah! No problem, no problem. Whoa, whoa. That's a little unruly. 5. All right, we'll add our lemon zest here as well and just whisk everything together. Real quickly, I like to break up the egg yolks with the lemon juice before I add everything to the sugar mixture. And we'll go ahead and pour this in, whisk it in. Don't panic if you see any clumps, but do your best to try to break them up. We are also going to add some water at this point. We need 3/4 cup of water, so do this a little bit more, and then we'll whisk in our water. This topping is perfectly tart, has such a good flavor to it. You are going to love it with a cream cheese base. All right, now let's head over to the stovetop. All right, we'll set our stovetop heat to medium low, especially if you're using a gas stove. Keep it a little closer to the low side, and you are going to whisk constantly while you cook this. We're going to cook this until it reaches a thickened pudding-like consistency. Just keep whisking. If you leave it unattended, it could end up burning or curdling, and then you have to start over. All right, so we do want to go to pretty much like a pudding consistency. You want this nice and thick. I'm going to actually pull it off the stove a little bit because the stove gets so hot. You can see it's totally thickened. It's like a pudding, or I guess I should say a lemon curd consistency. Let me show you with a spoon real quickly, just so you can see. All right, you need that consistency. Okay, see, look, you can see it's like balling up in the whisk. Not balling in the whisk, that would probably be too much, but it's pretty thick. Okay, so we are going to immediately pour this through a fine mesh strainer using our spatula because we do not waste anything. Oh, my stove's still on. Thanks, Nick. Keeping me from burning down the house. Really glad Mom had you. This is a super fine mesh strainer, so it's taking a little bit of effort. There we go. The strainer part is important though, because when you're cooking with cornstarch or you're cooking with eggs, little lumps can form, or if the eggs get a little too hot, they can start to cook. You do not want that in your topping. That would be honestly pretty gross. So a fine mesh strainer is going to catch all of those lumps. Bonus points to you if your fine mesh strainer is a little less fine because I have to kind of force it through here. But I'll do it. Do it for you guys. Use a fresh spatula for the other side. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, once you have all of your mixture strained, hopefully yours is a little easier than that, we're going to add a little bit of butter. We're adding 4 tablespoons of salted butter, and we're going to stir in 1 tablespoon at a time. This is the only whisk I have down here right now that's clean, so we're going to be using my giant whisk. How's it going, Luke?
Good.
Do you think this whisk is a little ridiculous?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Okay, try real quick.
I'll try it. See?
Yeah, we'll add this last tablespoon.
It's literally ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Do you want me to finish it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's ridiculous for me.
Super ridiculous. All right, we need this to cool before we can put it on our pie, just like our crust needs to cool. The crust is behind me. So we're going to set this aside and we're going to stir it occasionally just to keep the skin from forming on it. It shouldn't take too long to cool. All right, now you need 2 more mixing bowls. We're going to dirty a couple dishes, but it's worth it. For the first one, add 1 cup of very cold, heavy whipping cream. You will need an electric mixer. You can use the stand mixer with a whisk attachment if you'd like. That works great. Today I'm just using my electric hand mixer. And to help stabilize this whipped cream, we're going to add 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. You need a whole cup of powdered sugar for the entire recipe, so I've measured out a cup here. I'm just going to add about 1/2 of that to the whipping cream. All right, doesn't want to cooperate. Let's get a spoon. All right, whip this to stiff peaks. Always start on low speed and gradually increase to high speed. All right, and in just a few minutes, you will have homemade whipped cream, way better than store-bought, thick, fluffy, voluminous. Technically, it's chantilly cream because it's lightly sweetened. All right, slide this out of the way. Grab your other mixing bowl. No need to change your beaters. They're fine without washing. We're going to place 8 ounces of softened cream cheese into the bowl. Add the rest of our powdered sugar. It's about 1/2 cup. A total of 1 cup needs to go into the recipe. You can eyeball it to divide it, but don't eyeball it to measure overall. And we're going to add 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. All right, stir this together till it's nice and smooth. Now you wanna make sure that this is well combined, creamy, smooth, and lump-free. If your cream cheese is kind of cold, it can end up lumpy, so do set that out to soften. All right, this looks pretty good, so I'm going to add my whipped cream to it, or vice versa, whichever one works better. We're not going to use the mixer anymore at this point. If you really want to, you could briefly run it on low speed to get things combined, but you don't want to overdo it with the mixer. So we are going to ideally just use a spatula to gently fold everything together until it's nice and uniform. You should be able to feel with your spatula when it's uniform because that cream cheese mixture is really thick, the whipped cream is obviously really light, and you want it to get to a point where it's all the same consistency. Otherwise, you're going to have like pockets of whipped cream and pockets of cream cheese, and that'll just be weird. All right, before we assemble things, you wanna do a quick check. Make sure your pie crust is cooled. I'm just feeling it. It should not feel warm to the touch. Let's grab our lemon topping. This should also feel cool and not warm to the touch, because if it's warm, what could happen is you could end up melting your cream cheese mixture a little bit, which is obviously not ideal. So we're going to layer this evenly into the crust. And a very important note for this layer is when you're smoothing it in here, you want it to make contact with all of the crust. So get it into the corners there too. If you leave like a pocket where the cream cheese filling isn't touching the crust, when you go to cut into the pie, the crust is just going to separate from the filling. You're going to have like a crumbly hole, like a pocket in there. So just a word of warning, something to look out for. Smooth this in. Everything smells so good. And this combo of flavors is so perfect for summer. An offset spatula works really nice. Get things nice and even. Time for the lemon topping. We are not done with this pie yet though. We still have a finishing touch to add that I think you're really going to like. You don't have to go all the way to the edge with the lemon, but go close. All right, this pie is going to need to chill for several hours before you can serve it, at least for best results, usually 2 to 4 hours. So I'm gonna pop this in the fridge, and do I have one that I prepared yesterday to show you? Yes, I do. Now, before I serve this pie, number one tip, optional, but something that's really going to take it to the next level, half a batch of my homemade whipped cream on top. It just adds a nice lightness, a nice balance to the lemon. I just like to pipe some nice little swirls around the outside of the pie. I'll link to my homemade whipped cream recipe, but basically we already made it for the filling, so you already know how to do it. And I'm using the Attico 846 tip today for this. Use whatever you want, but I know people are going to ask, and this is one of my favorite tips. There's a little extra for snacking. All right, who wants to see how this pie looks inside? Okay, I'm always nervous. The first slice is always the messiest, so this knife's a little bit big. Okay, I'll try not to mess it up. All of the pictures on my website that you see, I take those myself. And every time I have to photograph a pie, I get so anxious and I always mess up the first slice cutting into it. It's just a tricky one. It wants to crumble. So the first slice usually is my snacking slice, and then the second and third get photographed. Honestly, that could have been worse. Like, that's totally servable. All right, big moment. Oh yeah, now I also have a blueberry pie recipe, so if you want a blueberry topping instead, check that one out. Words can't even describe. That is amazing, and I can't wait to hear what you think.
That was a ridiculous job, too.
Yeah. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, Cinco.
Literally, it's ridiculous.
Literally. Nikki's over there cringing at my crust. For some reason, like Panic at the Disco, I write sins, not tragedies, came to mind there. Feels relevant somehow.